they're all focusing on a person that we were temporarily like foster parents to, Sarah. And that was something that was perverted, like turned into something perverted by the internet. We never did anything weird with Sarah. We were just, I look at her as a little sister.
I got a little pie when I was 16.
None of that has ever happened.
Am I blatantly lying and I can't say anything because I don't want to get you in trouble?
I'm not talking about what happens in however much time. I don't know what the future holds, but we're not dating Sarah.
So, due to the obscene amount of mature content that will appear throughout this video, I do not have a prayer of getting it monetized by YouTube. Thankfully, we have a sponsor. Raid Shadow Legends, one of the most ambitious RPG projects of 2019, has just been released. One of the most epic experiences you'll ever have on your smartphone, as it can only really be compared to the biggest PC and console titles out there. And it's free. Check out the details on those champions. My favorite is Jizzo, not just because of his name, but also because he and Onision have similar complexions. There's something for everyone, whether it's the deep storytelling or the wide assortment of characters. I'm personally down for staring at Elaine for hours on end for no particular reason. But that's just me. With nearly 10 million players in the last 3 months and 200,000 reviews on the Play Store, Raid Shadow Legends has almost a perfect score. There's even a brand new rewards program for players. Get a new daily login reward for the first 90 days in the game. Click the link in the description to get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new players program to start your journey. Huge thank you again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video, since lovely Susan apparently doesn't want me to eat. Speaking of which, anyone in the mood for some chopped onion? It's not unreasonable to assume those with narcissistic tendencies are attracted to the alluring spotlight YouTube has to offer. I mean, these days, anyone with internet access has the capability to turn themselves into a celebrity. Without the ability to create and upload our own content, we wouldn't have some of the world's greatest gems like Filthy Frank, PewDiePie, iDubbbz, Review Bra.
Shut them up.
Today's market allows you to broadcast yourself like never before and cultivate a following while doing it, which is simultaneously the best and worst part of a place like YouTube, because the flip side of such a phenomenon also gives power to some of the darkest, most perverted monsters imaginable. And I have a feeling you already know who I'm talking about.
You don't think I'm a great actor?
Then what the fuck are you doing watching my goddamn channel? You motherfucking piece of shit!
See what I mean?
Man, what the fuck even is Onision? Besides being someone who we can all come together to collectively hate, Onision doesn't have much of a legacy on this platform. He's one of those guys everyone can just agree is a bad person. Like just a horrible, disgusting, sinister excuse of a washed up entertainer. Nobody likes him, and I mean nobody. But for whatever reason, he's been able to sustain himself on YouTube since around 2006. Why is that? Onision, or Greg, is a 33-year-old fossil who made it big after a video of him in a banana suit landed him on Tosh.0. Not joking. He now owns and operates a total of 3 channels, which have racked up a combined total of over 4 million subscribers. His main channel, Onision, is mainly a graveyard to some of his old classics, but still provides a home for semi-regular uploads like 10 Ways to Kill Charmander, or 10 Ways to Kill Mario, or 10 Ways to Kill Bowser, 10 Ways Mario.
I shaved my dog's hair off.
Shave dog's hair, shave it off. Kai will punch me in my face, Kai will punch me in my face, Kai will punch me in my face. shaved off hair.
Impressive stuff. Or maybe if that's not your speed, you'd be more interested in one of his other 2 channels, where he has an entire series degrading and judging women who ask to be rated by their looks on a scale of 1 to 10.
Hi, Onision. I've been watching your channel for 2 years now, and I'm such a huge fan. I love your message about body images, but I made fun of a lot, and I know you'll give me your honest opinion. My honest opinion is that's a terrible photo of you. I mean, what were you going for? Jughead's girlfriend? 13, and I'm right. She's 13. You look like you could be 30, but you're actually 16. So, you know, yikes.
Yes, Onision literally asked his audience for underage pictures and somehow got away with it.
So here's a tweet from a very stupid person, it seems. They say, care to explain how asking for half-naked photos from girls before and after puberty with your name on their body isn't creepy? They attached a screen cap is a better sized version of that image. And here's what I actually said. As you can see, my statement responding to them really shows you how dumb they're being. I said it literally doesn't say girls or half-naked anywhere.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Pictures of fans before puberty, because that isn't blatantly predatory or weird at all, is it? Lovely how this man's a father now.
Their belly's starting to fall over their boxers, so it definitely changed your diet. Fat. Like, you're practically muffin topping, and muffin topping's normally an indicator that you have too much fat. Meanwhile, this person is definitely fat because, again, they're muffin topping.
As we both know, if there's one thing Onision loves and promotes the most, it's body positivity. The man cares so much about your health that he's willing to verbally shame you in front of millions of people if it means getting you into shape.
She still has rolls on her side despite the fact that she's standing fully up. You're not fat per se, but you know, you gotta stop eating meat. Oh, we're walking into fat territory. Am I wrong?
You're ridiculous.
See, she can't even say it. It's called forced PC. Her brain won't allow her to say anything else.
Forced PC?
You're so sensitive to people's feelings that you can't tell them the truth anymore. You're fat.
He's so passionate, in fact, that he made countless videos bashing Eugenia Cooney during perhaps the peak of her eating disorder.
You shouldn't be concerned. I go to the bathroom through my mouth, so it's okay.
Oh, but it's totally fine now. That's in the past. He's completely retired the topic, right?
Regardless, I know I can make plenty of more Eugenia videos and get millions upon millions of collective views from them, but I am officially resigning from the topic.
Psych, that clip was from 2 years ago. He's since made over a dozen videos capitalizing on her recovery. Oh, but he's apologized to her now, so what's the problem? Well, maybe if we look past the blatant damage control, we can see that he's still using her condition as clickbait to fuel a dying channel.
Are you ready to see the new, amazing, incredible, gorgeous, outstandingly, like, inspirational? I said it in a video before. I said it in like 2 videos. I said, imagine how amazing it would be if Eugenia Cooney started to actually get better. And if your jaw is dropping right now, you ain't alone, sister.
You can give Eugenia Cooney as many shallow compliments as you want, Greg, but it still doesn't change the fact that you once said this to an audience.
Okay, so I just add the main food. There we go.
Don't try to pull a 180 and pretend like you care about EDs all of a sudden, you absolute parasite. You're only talking about her because she lines your own wallet. You know all the praise in the world won't help her situation. You even said it yourself.
I realized why I haven't made videos on this for a couple months, and why I showed a disinterest in never making videos about Eugenia ever again before. Because no one can really fix Eugenia but Eugenia.
You may not be mocking her, but you're still capitalizing on a mental disorder by masking it as genuine concern, which may even be worse.
I'm so proud of Eugenia Cooney for making all the progress she did. I don't have to ever make a video about her ever again because there's no reason other than to maybe say she's beautiful like I have Andy Biersack in the past.
But are you really surprised? I mean, this is the guy who pretended to rape a doll of another YouTuber.
I'm so glad we're this close together. Like, this is really nice. Just kick off my shoes and... Oh, hey! You fell on me, Andy.
This is the guy who tried to push his myriad of financial burdens onto his child fans.
I worked really hard on Patreon today. I have a lot more work to do. I'm now doing a monthly thing. So if you guys want to help me make more videos and help pay for these really necessary things like the set that I record at and my mode of transportation to get to the sets and my house that I need for, you know, things I can't talk about because it's private life and that's sacred, You know, believe it or not, that stuff is sacred.
This is the guy who falsely flagged 50 videos for critiquing his content. This is the guy who stuffed his tortoise in a box and killed it. This is the guy who tried to start a cult called Siseska. This is the guy who allegedly transported an underage girl to a state in which she'd meet the age of consent, violating the Mann Act and perhaps committing a serious crime. A little bit of a pattern, huh? But Eugenia wouldn't be the first person Onision has glaringly exploited for his own personal and monetary gain. Greg's love life is insanely complicated, involving many different parties, and yet he still chooses to thrust them all into the limelight for his own cheap thrills, placing every last one of his relationships front and center for his fleeting fan base to gobble up. Since the dawn of his channel, Onision has documented every minute detail of these affairs, forming his own makeshift reality show. But at whose expense? For that, I'll need to call on an old lover of my own. Grab a snack.
Thank you, John, you little minx. What's on the cutting board today, then? Oh, Onision, my favorite. In fact, in my time on YouTube, I've received multiple requests to cover this enigma of a being, and you know what? I probably will eventually. But for the moment, you're just going to have to tolerate me crashing John's video to talk about him, because what is my misery if I can't spread it onto other channels? Today, I've been asked to cover Onision's previous relationships and what they might tell us about him. This was a fun little assignment that led me down many different roads of research, and hopefully it has led me to create a somewhat accurate recollection of his public love life, albeit not the deepest. What we do know, though, is that Onision has been quite the mad dog. Now, we're mainly going to be focusing on the relationships that he had while on YouTube. As many people who follow him closely will know, there were many who came before, but we should not be touching on them. For context, our friend Greg here is 33 and one of the original creators on the platform. He did actually have a life prior to his presence here, and in that there was a marriage to a person by the name of Sky. Sky and Greg appear to have known each other since a rather young age, definitely prior to YouTube. They were married in their mid-2000s, and this marriage continued into the first few years of Greg's YouTube career. The details of this marriage were not too clear. Sky was a year younger than Greg, so nothing particularly suspect there. Documented comments made by Sky regarding the relationship are not the most positive, stating that he insisted that she kept her hair short and that if she didn't wear shorts under her skirt, she would be raped. Of course, that is just her testimony and should be taken as that. As for Sky's involvement with YouTube went, she actually appeared in a fair few early videos of Onision's and worked to financially support them before the channel took off. She had a channel of her own, however it was deleted shortly after.
Guess who got divorced recently? Who? Onision divorced his stupid, ugly, skank wife.
The relationship was not the most spoken about, although it had its fair share, but just before the Christmas of 2010, Sky and Onision separated. This is where most of the drama appears to have come from. Although appearing somewhat placid and in good faith at first, Onision would later upload a video known as Bitter Divorce, where he implies that Sky has taken various items from him. He also released a video which showed Sky removing items from his front porch. Both these videos, however, have since been deleted. The standout detail with this relationship was that a majority of the drama actually occurred after the separation, with Onision regularly complaining about the alimony payments that he would have to make to Sky.
Hey, do you support slavery? Like, do you support another person working for something that they cannot profit from whatsoever? Do you support that? Okay, if your answer is no, then you don't support alimony.
What is more clearly documented is the debauchery that he indulged in as he became rather prominent on YouTube. The third individual to introduce to this story is a person by the name of Shiloh. Shiloh was 17 when she contacted the 25-year-old Greg in 2010. She was actually a bit of a celebrity herself in Canada with a minor musical hit called Operator. In her testimony, she said she had reached out to Greg to escape a verbally abusive relationship. When they first made contact in 2010, Greg was still married to Sky. However, this ended very soon after, following subsequently by the development of a relationship with Shiloh. Due to the very tight timeline, many alleged that Onision had cheated on Sky with Shiloh. Onision initially denied this, although a few years later he did admit actually that he hadn't been quite as emotionally honest with Sky as originally thought.
When I was married, I started talking to her a month before my marriage ended, and we talked all the time. We really did. So people can say that I emotionally cheated, and maybe I did. Maybe I emotionally cheated. But I definitely didn't physically cheat, and I definitely didn't do any other kind of cheating. And I never said I loved her or anything like that. We never had any like relationship conversations. We were very just friends. You know, there may have been emotions there, but we were just friends.
Throughout the start of 2011, Greg and Shiloh's relationship flourished. Shiloh created a YouTube channel, and Greg was her first subscriber. And after a few months of keeping it on the down low, they make the relationship public in around April 2011, with Greg presenting Shiloh in a video titled Onision's Girlfriend. Following this video, various camaraderie and drama ensues. It started off fairly simple, but did escalate to the point where he started receiving backlash. Probably the peak of this was the very controversial Shiloh Forgot Me, in which Onision records Shiloh encountering a seizure and then memory loss. This video was removed due to public criticism that he did not take her to a medical facility and in fact deemed it a reasonable response to film her.
They were aggressive towards me primarily because I didn't call an ambulance when she was going through what she went through. In fact, she's still going through it, but the reason I didn't call an ambulance is because I wouldn't want someone to call an ambulance on me if I lost my memory. I don't see what doctors are going to do to help Shiloh because we know what triggers her memory loss, and that's severe stress. So if we avoid severe stress, I believe that she's going to gradually gain her memory back.
Although Shiloh did defend him, to me it seems fairly inappropriate. As he had presented it on his channel, the relationship was turbulent yet passionate, and we'll talk about that more soon. In July of 2011, they had a very tough breakup, which Onision documented in the video Shiloh Threatened Me, in which he claims he had phoned the police and Shiloh was taken away to a medical facility. At this point, it's documented that Onision attempted to re-establish contact with Sky through a series of emails and phone calls. Sky also said that Onision had cried over the phone to her in a statement. This sort of cycle of regret with Sky seems to be a recurring incident, probably most embodied by this Facebook post he would make later on saying that divorcing her was his biggest regret. Anyhow, then in August following the breakup, Onision entered a very short, concealed relationship with an individual who would later be revealed as Hannah Minks, but not too much was known about this at the time. Then in September, Greg began dating a person by the name of Adrian, which he announced in the video I Found Her. At this point, the frequency of relationships that Onision was making his way through began to frustrate his audience, with some of them venting this frustration in the comments section. Their frustration was proven justified when barely a few weeks later Greg broke up with Adrian. Sometime around this point, Adrian publishes a letter documenting her experience with Onision. One of the most frustrating things while researching this is how polarized Onision's behavior often seems to be. During the final breakup with Adrian, after a relationship that barely lasted a few weeks from my understanding, there was a back and forth where Onision alleged that Adrian had an STD, which Adrian then responded to and documented in her side of the story, which then Onision responded to by uploading a video called She's Right, which he then deleted and claimed that he hadn't read parts where she painted him more negatively. This was just a continuous cycle. I am so done. 2011 YouTube was wild. And this continued over the following days, with Onision releasing multiple responses, each differing in their message and tone. Honestly, at this point, I was really beginning to loathe volunteering to summarize this, because it reached the point where there were so many statements that were being thrown at me that they just lost all their meanings. It would have been pointless to try and deduce exactly what Onision was trying to say, because there was no coherent message other than the fact that he clearly didn't have a clue what to think, and certainly not worth the time that John's not paying me. You should definitely tell John to pay me, please.
Hey guys, I wanted to express something to you that I think is really, really gross. Girls and guys that don't wash their, that stuff.
Remember, this is an analogy of my relationships. The home that I ended up in was smaller than the first home.
Sweet.
It's much prettier. Much more clean.
Anyhow, still in September 2011, only a few days after this, Shiloh and Onision announced that they are in fact back together. Throughout October, Onision and Shiloh had this elongated dispute with Adrian over STDs. At the end of September, both Shiloh and Greg had made complaints about women with unclean vagina. I mean, why am I even doing this? Okay, basically they were trying to frame Adrian as this unclean individual. Greg also went and had this STD test where he found out that he actually wasn't suffering from anything. Basically, the implication was that Adrian was this gross individual who is probably infected with STDs. So Onision needs to make sure that he is clean. Which, you know, I can think of multiple problems with that message. In response to this, Adrian allowed a letter to be publicized regarding her relationship with Onision that laid out her side more comprehensively. Once again, I was told that this part couldn't be too long, and it is a long email. But basically, the letter paints Onision as very self-obsessed, not really paying attention to Adrian's needs, and extremely trapping and controlling, but yet very apologetic and repentant when she appeared to cut him out or became more assertive in her feelings. So overall, very manipulative. Probably the most indicative of this behavior was a scenario that she describes in which she claims that Onision had forced her to have sex with him without a condom. She also shows a conversation that she had with Shiloh's mother, where the mother describes him as, quote, evil personified, and she expresses her anguish at Shiloh's continued involvement with Greg, with the expectation that Greg will just continue to take advantage of her. But on the bright side, at least Greg is STD free, I think. But hey, maybe it's not all bad. Onision and Shiloh were expecting. What wonderful news. Onision announced this in a video called My Girlfriend's Pregnant, in which he partakes in various random behaviors, including throwing up and pouring some sort of substance on him. I don't know. However, just under a month and a half later, they announced that Shiloh had a miscarriage, so Onision would tragically not be a father, although the situation had led him to question whether the baby was his at all, as he believed he might be infertile. Also around this time, Greg uploaded the video Greg and Sheila Non-Fiction, in which he rebuked claims that the drama between them was faked. This was then followed just over a week later when Onision announced that Shiloh had sepsis and that she would be leaving for Canada for treatment. However, many people didn't believe this immediately, and the video was very promptly taken off his channel. Then a couple of days later, he uploaded a goodbye montage, clearly very distraught over the fact that Shiloh was leaving, although they officially did not break up at this point. Onision did not take the time apart well, and in the couple months prior to his final breakup with Shiloh, he had additional disputes with both Adrian and Sky, which led to both embarrassment on his part and harassment on other people's part. A few months later, he would state that Adrian had apologized for her comments made previously in her letter. However, Adrian rebutted this and stated that he had taken it out of context. At the start of February, his relationship with Shiloh came to a bitter end. In a video called It's Over, Onision claims that Shiloh had lied to him throughout the relationship and lists off various examples.
First an alter ego, losing 3 years or so, the metal plate in your head, and what about the rainbow? You lied about her baby and medical conditions, you're always running your mouth, but can you even listen?
A few days after, Shiloh is dating someone new, and people become suspicious that she had been cheating on our good friend Gregory. This then devolves dramatically over the next couple weeks with various posts and videos from both parties involved, eventually escalating with Shiloh's I'm sorry post, in which she admits to emotionally cheating on Onision, though not physically. Onision rejects this apology, calls her various names, and demands the money that he invested in her back. One amusing detail that I thought was worth noting was the fact that Onision wanted to take Shiloh to court on Judge Judy for reparations. Apparently, this was actually going to happen until they realized that Shiloh was Canadian, which is a shame, to be honest. I would have loved Judge Judy to provide her verdict on this festival of fuckery. So this is where a majority of the melodrama comes to a halt. Although both parties have continued to talk about it on and off, that's another barrel of fish. This is where we introduce another character named Kai, who went by Lainey at the time. Kai had been following Onision since the fall of the year before, and had a few interactions before they began formally dating at the end of February. When they began dating, Onision was the ripe old age of 26, and Kai 17. Although Greg has later stated that Kai had lied about his age, saying he was 18. How would this relationship develop? Well, shortly after, and I mean very shortly after, like in March, Greg started wearing a ring. Greg visited Kai on a few occasions, with many fans matching up their timelines. Although the pair were initially evasive about the status of their relationship, maybe because of criticism that we'll discuss very soon, they went public with this in October of 2011. Obviously stating that they were engaged. Shortly after, Kai turned 18. They married each other in November. Mercifully for my sake, this relationship has probably been the least turbulent. But then again, that's still not saying much. In fact, their relationship was probably more publicly combative than many others, with some very petty arguments that just aren't worth my time. All they tell me is that Greg is rather insecure. After a few years of this relationship, Kai decided to come out as bisexual. It had been brought up prior to this time by some individuals individuals, but not confirmed, and outing someone is not a good thing to do anyway. At this point, Onision appeared in Kai's coming out video, who credits Greg with helping him realize his sexuality, and briefly after, with Greg's approval, begins exploring individual relationships. This is where we introduce another fucking character named Billy. But hey, at least we're in 2015. So, Kai alleges that Greg was the one pushing her to date Billy, and screenshots from this period show Onision being very encouraging to the relationship. He even made a video called Onision's Wife Leaves Him, which, I don't know.
I'm coming for you.
Come to me.
Almost there.
Wait, what?
That's right, baby. Your lips taste like cherry.
Oh my god, no.
This feels so right without whiskers. No more sandpaper except down there. Girl.
It's glorified fan fiction. However, Greg also interacted with Billy on a fairly regular basis and even made some videos with her. Kai first dated Billy, however, while they were dating, Greg cuddled Billy and gave her a body massage which included some more arousing parts of the body. Greg told Kai, and this upset him, who quickly broke up with Greg. In a video very soon after, Kai stated that Greg and Billy were now dating. However, Billy and subsequently Greg denied this. Greg uploaded a video stating that he had betrayed his wife, obviously referring pre-transition, and talking about this situation. He also stated that he'd be focusing on couples counseling to repair their marriage. Then Onision uploaded a bait video about breaking up, bait that Billy then took and contacted him, but then he uploaded another video stating that this was fake and showed the text message of Billy contacting him. How do you even do this? How do you have the energy? Anyhow, after a few months, Billy became involved in their lives again. It began to enter this threesome style of dynamic, with Billy being casually involved with Kai and Onision, with a saga of drama ensuing, just a cycle of never-ending conflict. This was basically most of 2016 summed up, and it wasn't until 2017 when it all ended in the fireball that is known to devoted Onision fans and followers as Basement Gate. Billy uploaded a now deleted video named Dear Onision, in which she gave a rather scathing account of how Onision had treated her.
Please leave me alone. Stop talking about me. Don't speak about me in your videos. I'm done. Like, I hope you're happy. You completely destroyed all of my pride. You told me to get a tattoo saying I'm a liar, like a tramp stamp. You told me to shave my head. You told me to dye my hair green, shave off my eyebrows, and get an ugly tan. Like, is that not abusive to you? Do you think that's a fair trade for me telling you that I smoked weed?
As mentioned, the video is deleted, but the basement gate phrase came from the fact that Billy said and provided screenshots that show a person who we assume to be Greg suggest that Billy should be chained to his basement wall. How delightful. Onision also released a response called Dear Ex-Girlfriend, parentheses, the cheater, liar, homewrecker, and literal criminal, close parentheses. However, that has been mostly removed from the internet too, although his old Twitter does reveal that he stood behind his basement comments, which, I mean, okay. It's hard to provide further commentary on this really, but it's the chaos that you'd expect from Onision. John has informed me that I'm not allowed to talk anymore about this timeline, so anything that happened past this date is on him. Throughout all this chaos, something that constantly came up was the ages of the people that he was involved with. A very high majority of people that Onision had entered relationships with were in their teens, many of whom were around the age of 17, as shown by this graph. This meant that every relationship and individual that Onision was involving himself with, the age gap was higher and higher as time progressed. This led to a lot of criticism from audiences who believed he was specifically targeting and grooming younger individuals. Most of these comments went as far to say that honestly they thought it was a bit creepy, which I can see, especially by the stage that he was in his 30s. He addressed this in part in a video named Your Lies End Here, a video at around the start of 2017 where he addresses people who were talking about the status of another person, namely Sarah, Kai's friend.
Regardless, I'd like to put the rumors to sleep because they're grossing me out. And the reason they're grossing me out is because we have a bunch of perverts who have a bunch of perverted ideas going on in their heads, who are projecting their perversions onto my life as if that is how I live. Please understand that if you see someone accusing me of doing something with a 16-year-old, That is them fantasizing about it. They're creating a fantasy in their head that something is going on that I assure you is in no way going on.
It becomes clear that he's very aware of how people feel about his relationships. However, he has continued to persist and stand his ground. And although my allotted time is up, I hope I've given a reasonable summary of what has happened in the past. Believe me, there is so much more, but I think I might die. So I'll pass it back to our good friend Aubrey here. Have a right, mates.
Thank you, babe. I have a feeling you're already familiar with him, but if you haven't already, subscribe to The Right Opinion. He's adorable. Still not paying him, though. At this point in the game, you should have a vastly comprehensive idea of Greg's past tribulation when it comes to the women he sticks his onion into. In many respects, the man is a walking circus act. He's essentially done everything but weasel his way onto his own TLC show. For years, he's been notorious for closing in on young women, particularly starstruck fans, by manipulating them into doing his sexual bidding, which really shines new light on some of his recent tweets now, doesn't it? But you may have heard James mention another fan, a young girl by the name of Sarah, who I can imagine has been quite the thorn in Greg's ass lately. Let's delve a little deeper, shall we? Sarah is the most recent victim of the couple, and a big reason as to why Onision's name is being thrown around again after so many years. Originally a fan of the channel, Sarah began reaching out to Greg and Kai on Twitter when she was just 13 years old, which was apparently a perfectly suitable age for Kai to start messaging her back. Sarah now claims that she was groomed by the couple from the ripe young age of 14, with receipts dating all the way back to 2014. You know, when Kai was 20 and Greg was around 29, the three would be in talks with each other online for the next few years, as Sarah's home life was unfortunately not the greatest at the time. A big reason as to why she ended up moving in with the two upon turning 16. I'm not making this up. I wish I was, but I don't think I could, honestly.
We had joked about me living there, but one night after some really not so great stuff went down, I was outside crying, texting my best friend, Kai, and he said that he was seriously going to talk to Greg about me living there. And at first I was just shocked. Like, I sat there like, what? What do you mean? And I was like, wait, really? And he was like, yeah, it hurts to say this, but I feel like they knew what they were doing.
This rightfully became a heavy point of contention among Onision's fan base and critics alike, eventually hitting its tipping point, which prompted Greg to take to his own channel as a means to extinguish the flames. This is when he uploaded the video James mentioned a little earlier, which you and I will be taking a look at.
Why are you living with a 16-year-old? Okay, who else is genuinely concerned about this? Onision in his late 30s. What? I'm 31.
Oh, okay. False alarm, everybody. He's not a man in his late 30s hanging out with a 16-year-old. He's a man in his early 30s hanging out with a 16-year-old. Oh, better call off Chris Hansen. Looks like everything's completely normal out here after all. God, you make this too easy, Greg.
Ew, Greg, get some adult friends already. First off, I'll go ahead and circle all the legal adults in the video that they're commenting on. And there you go.
Thanks for highlighting the totally non-creepy fact that two legal adults are casually hanging out with a 16-year-old girl on the couch.
Regardless, I'd like to put the rumors to sleep because they're grossing me out. And the reason they're grossing me out is because we have a bunch of perverts who have a bunch of perverted ideas going on in their heads, who are projecting their perversions onto my life as if that is how I live. Please understand that if you see someone accusing me of doing something with a 16-year-old, that is them fantasizing about it.
Bro, you think I'm the creepy one? What, you think I'm the creepy one for repeatedly hanging around girls over a decade younger than myself? No, you need to stop making this weird, bro. Stop making it so perverted, all right? I'm not the pervert, bro. You are. You're the pervert.
Firstly, Sarah is Lainey's friend. Lainey is my wife. They have a platonic relationship. Neither of them does anything weird with the other person. When I say platonic, I mean they don't touch in any way inappropriately ever. I don't even remember the last time they hugged or if they've hugged. Now, as far as my relationship to Sarah, the same. Sarah and I do not hug, we do not do anything inappropriate. She is simply a person living with us.
Okay, so I'm not in the business of making baseless accusations, alright? That's not what I'm here to do. But at least consider this. If someone has already been proven to have lied about one aspect of their story, would that make them less or more likely to lie about another aspect of the same story? Especially when their entire career and reputation is on the line. What do you think? Again, I'm not here to make those types of assumptions. I'm just throwing that out there. A little food for thought. You get the old noggin jogging, if you will. Really makes you think.
And you may ask why she's living with us. Well, this is where I kind of hit a roadblock, because we're talking about Sarah's private life, which she doesn't want to share with all of you, and she has a right to not have that shared with you.
Greg, the entire point of this video was to dispute those perverted accusations that you and Sarah are up to something behind the scenes. And you can't even come up with a good enough excuse as to why she's living with you in the first place. I don't know when you started respecting people's private lives, because God knows you already put this chick through enough hell, but please at least be a little more creative with your lies. That's the least you can do, don't you think?
It's kind of like people in a long distance relationship. You guys are the jealous girlfriends or boyfriends, and you just assume that because you're not looking at every single thing I do when I'm not around you, that means I'm out having sex with somebody.
God, you just hit the nail on the head there. I mean, after all, I'm just jealous, right? If only I were a 16-year-old girl, then maybe I'd have a chance with you and Kai myself.
And I assure you, the only person I'm having sex with is my wife.
Another very innocent thing for a happily married man to say on camera, right?
Now, a lot of you did bring up the age of consent in my state being 16. But firstly, I'm pretty sure there's some standard that actually makes it still illegal for a 31-year-old like myself to be with a 16-year-old. I haven't looked it up myself. I haven't researched it. You may say, well, Onision, you've dated two 17-year-old girls before, so that must mean that you're magically into 16-year-olds now. Well, guess what, Chuck? I haven't dated a 17-year-old since I was in my 20s.
You're right, Onion Boy. You were in your 20s when you last dated the 17-year-old. 26 to be exact. Now, I don't know about you, but most normal people out there aren't exactly in the market for a partner who was, I don't know, at the age of 9 at the time you were graduating high school. Maybe that's just me, you know, you call me old-fashioned, but I typically like my women around the same age as me. But evidently, that's not everybody.
So we have my wife, who's now 22. We have my ex-girlfriend, who I started dating when she was 17, but we broke up when she was 18. We have another girl I dated around that time, who was 26. We have another girl I dated around that time, who was 24. And then we have the girl I was with before, who was also in her mid-20s.
You know, I've dated many adults before, but for some reason, all you perverts talk about are all the children I've been with.
The plan with Sarah is just to have her live with us till she's finished school, and then she can go out in the world and live her life.
Yeah, that aged well. Keep in mind, this video was made 2 years before Sarah alleged that Greg and Kai took her virginity, which didn't happen until a few days after she turned 18. That's what I call some quality foster parenting, which I guess shouldn't be surprising given Onision's already questionable parenting skills.
They're not as sweet as I thought they would be. They're actually not as sweet as I thought they would be. Empanada? Something. I wasn't expecting.
I guess when you broadcast enough of your private life to the internet, a few ugly moments are bound to slip through the cracks, right, Greg? But that's an entirely separate can of worms that I just don't have the patience to look into right now. All I'm interested in are the accusations that have already been made public by Sarah. Accusations that didn't start to show up until January of 2019. Judging by the iMessage screenshots Sarah has been so courteous to post on Twitter, Greg wanted her to not only make a video defending Kai, but also appear on a live stream to dispute any further allegations. When Sarah showed hesitancy, he called her and insisted she be an adult. And after reading these texts, I'm sure we can both agree that only an innocent man would emotionally manipulate a young teenage girl into doing his bidding. Doesn't matter who you exploit, just as long as that public image stays squeaky clean, right, Greg? But I suppose that can only last so long, because about 8 months later, all hell broke loose. Billy's best friend, I'm stupid, claimed Greg had not only been grooming Sarah, but had recently slept with her. Sarah had already been posting intentionally vague tweets leading up to this reveal, but nothing could have prepared anyone for the whirlwind of new information that would soon come to light. Sarah then took to YouNow, where she revealed that Greg's husband Kai had actively facilitated the grooming, participating in it, by allegedly having phone sex with Sarah, telling her how big Greg's dick was when she was 14, and even going so far as to send a bottomless pic of himself while she was underage. Sarah also claims that she sent at least one lewd image of herself to Kai while she was still a child, and how she and Greg had sex while Kai was in New Mexico. This is among some less interesting tidbits, like how the couple let her have alcohol as a minor, how Greg made her feel so bad about being a virgin at 16 that she started crying. Just the typical guilt-tripping nonsense you'd expect from such an upstanding citizen. There were also some leaked screenshots between Kai and Greg floating around that seemed to showcase the two discussing Sarah's virginity. Yes, another very normal thing all foster parents do at one point or another, argue over who exactly took their foster child's virginity. You just gotta laugh to keep yourself from crying. Blair White then uploaded an interview with Sarah the following week where she alleged that topless photos were exchanged while she was underage. Keep in mind that although Kai is not as old and decrepit as our friend Greg, he would have still been a legal adult throughout the entire time these nudes were traded. It was around this time that a few old characters decided to make their comeback. Greg's ex-wife Sky and her sister Alicia both returned to Twitter in an attempt to defend Sarah. Sky insisted she was unaware of Greg's whereabouts up until the new grooming allegations dropped. In response, she posted a myriad of disturbing emails of Greg threatening to kill himself over alimony payments. This provided a new window into Greg's emotional abuse, which in turn lended more credence to Sarah's case. He is a manipulative pile of shit who could not care less about the people he so viciously exploits for his own twisted benefit, and the fact that he still has a modicum of credibility in this community makes my teeth itch. To top it all off, Sky's younger sister Alicia also claimed that Greg tried to hook up with her while she was drunk at a party. She was 15, and he was dating her older sister at the time. It was at this point that Greg began to panic, attempting to reach Alicia via Twitter and email as a means to apologize for his past behavior. Of course, this proved itself to be a lost cause, as Shiloh, of all people, came to Alicia's defense and reinforced her story by claiming she had once seen modeling photos of the underage girl on Greg's computer. Alicia was a model, as it was later implied by Sky that he got off to these images. I know this is a lot to take in, but trust me, it only gets worse from here. Sarah continued to share more information over the coming days, the most notable being an actual timeline of the harrowing events in question, with the dates being confirmed by plane tickets and Tumblr posts. Perhaps the most alarming part of all is how all of these stories add up. The anecdotes, the dates, everything seems to correspond with one another. Hell, even the victims' individual narratives all match the respected timeline here. It just doesn't make any sense to me how Sarah, of all people, would choose to lie about such a detailed and otherwise convoluted series of events. She isn't a public figure, she doesn't make content or anything. There's nothing for her to gain. In my opinion, all of the public evidence we have received so far points to Kai and Greg being guilty in every sense of the word. But does that make Kai a predator himself, or is he just another mere victim of Greg's cruel and continuous manipulation? A fair question that has been posed for some time now and still remains widely unanswered. Some say yes, others say no, but I think if you're approaching the idea from a black and white perspective, you're missing a big part of the picture. See, it isn't too uncommon for predators to start off as prey themselves, and in the case of Kai, I think it's completely within reason to assume the same for him. It wouldn't be too outlandish to attribute Kai's newly found manipulative traits to Greg's abusive nature. Kai absolutely started off as another one of Greg's victims, and has arguably sought out new relationships as a means to exercise the same abusive tendencies that Greg has continuously subjected him to. Discounting the whole mess with Sarah, there's still another character we haven't even gotten to yet, Regina, who Kai apparently started dating in October of 2014. Regina was another 15-year-old fan of the couple when Kai, 21 at the time, publicly tweeted that he had sent the young girl nudes. People in the replies thought it was just a joke until it was confirmed by Regina that she had sent nudes back. Allegedly. Again, last thing I need is to be taken to court by these apes. This was around the time that Kai was more active on his old Twitter account, LaneyBot, where he would casually hit on fans, some obviously being underage, but he would always play them off as jokes. Real funny jokes, obviously. This was when he became closer to both Billy and Sarah, and where it became evident that Greg was pressuring Kai into pressuring Billy into a relationship. It was just this chain of manipulation that started with Onision and went all the way down through Kai. As James mentioned before, the three didn't start dating on and off until early 2016, where they arguably replaced Regina with Billy until they began to consider replacing Billy with Sarah once she became 18. It's just such a clusterfuck, man.
Did Kai talk to you sexually when you were underage?
Yes. I actually thought I was dating Kai. Like, had the whole asking out thing and like calling each other babe and everything and saying I love you. And then Kai was like, oh, I'm dating Billy now, and I was like, oh, okay.
There were a couple of other storylines in late 2016 that were also a part of the picture for a little while, but there wasn't too much on that front after one of the girls, Haley, expressed disinterest in a three-way relationship with the couple as she wasn't too big on dating Greg. Can't imagine why. But that doesn't discount any of the manipulation tactics that are clearly present in these screenshots. Saying that Kai actively participated in the coercion of these girls alongside Onision is an understatement. Kai has undeniably worked to help Greg act upon his depraved impulses, which is incredibly sad to see. After all of the psychological and emotional trauma that Greg has no doubt put him through, Kai has still managed to fall into his trap. Although he may have very well started off as a victim, we see the facilitation of this twisted cycle of abuse carried out with Sarah, Billy, Regina, the list goes on. It's a textbook case of Stockholm Syndrome, if you ask me. Kai has developed a sort of alliance with Greg and has either consciously or subconsciously decided to inflict the same type of abuse he has been forced to endure onto vulnerable fans. Although I do believe Greg has had a heavy role in coercing Kai into this behavior, not all of the blame should fall onto one party alone. They are both responsible for the hell they have put these young girls through, and I sincerely hope both of them get what's coming to them legally. But will they? It's fair to say Onision has been participating in this behavior for a very long time, meaning he's very good at dodging legal prosecution. He knows how to play the legality of a situation to obtain whatever it is his morally dubious heart desires. I mean, if you look at his history, he gets away with most of this shit on technicalities anyway. Why should he take any of this public backlash seriously when he always gets back up again? One of his latest videos is just a quick cash grab to capitalize on the recent controversy, for fuck's sake. Watch 20 seconds of this video and tell me this man doesn't seem clinically insane to you.
Let's study some innocence.
I'm innocent, I tell you, innocent! Just because I look like a bandit doesn't mean I am one. I'm innocent! I'm innocent!
Listen, just because that little girl has a smile on her face next to a burning building doesn't make her guilty, internet. I'm innocent! It is a baby. It's probably innocent. I'm really very innocent.
He is grotesquely mocking the serious allegations put forward by the very victims he's scarred over the past 8 years. He knows the legal system well, and he knows how close he toes that line, and he knows he'll continue to get away with it. As long as he has fans, Onision will continue to be a festering cancer in this community, a perilous danger to any young, impressionable girl who may be so unlucky as to cross his path. The pain that Greg has inflicted on his victims dates back nearly a decade, and will likely stay persistent if nothing changes. I just have to wonder if any of this would be happening had he been forgotten long ago, left behind with the other irrelevant YouTubers of 2008. I have to imagine that his continued prevalence is in part due to videos like these, calling attention to the immoral actions of such a reprehensible character. We as a community have always had the capability to ensure that this man does not leverage his status to manipulate another girl, and yet he has continued to do so time and time again. But what else are we supposed to do? Let him fly under the radar and turn the other cheek anytime his mangled fantasies get the best of him? Of course not. His actions have a right to be documented, chastised, and exposed. But tell me, what is the solution when he is literally striving off of his own controversies? My only hope is that with enough time, we will be able to educate those who may not know better and ensure that Onision's name is forever synonymous with abuser, offender, and manipulator. How many more vulnerable girls must fall victim to this man's calculating behavior before we as a collective realize and accept the fact that Onision is a predator?
I'm going to seriously tell everybody what you've done to me.
I haven't done anything to you.
I'm going to destroy you.
I haven't done anything to you.
Yes, you have. You destroyed everything. I'm forced to go back there. She's going to kick me out and I have nothing. just know that when they say on the news that I was found, brutally murdered, that it was because of you.
Keep on, keep on.